Well, so we watched a couple of movies that we're going to talk about this last week, and then we watched a movie with you yesterday. Under the Silverlake is something you really wanted to watch.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of nostalgic for you here.
Great rabbit hole to go down, so I went down it, and it was great when I watched it, but then coming back here, you guys wanted to do this podcast, and I thought, like, wow, like...
It's a show.
This show, sorry. When you guys asked me to do the show, I'm like, man, this would be a cool movie, because I haven't seen it here since. I remember having a good time watching it here, and, LA vibes, and we're in LA, so...
Yeah, it's interesting to see that movie, especially living in Los Angeles. It definitely resonates with young men, kind of like aimless search for meaning in LA. Yeah. You watched it in 2019?
Yeah, when it came out,
Yeah, it came out in 2018.
But I remember it kind of got fucked by the, it got really fucked on distribution, like, totally, like, they were gonna release it, then it just sat for a year, and then it got released or something. Like, it was really bad. Probably why it didn't probably do so good, because it got stunted.
Yeah, Under the Silverlake premiered at the Cannes International Film Festival in 2018. And then it was originally supposed to be released in, like, the fall of 2018, but it got pushed back to April 19th, 2019.
Yeah.
And I saw it on April 20th, 2019.
Wow.
So I'd been living in LA for a month at my in Silverlake.
Yeah, that's so crazy. Yeah.
I was living with my aunt and uncle at their house at the time. And I was I was in LA for a month at that point, and I didn't really have anything going on, like no friends, like nothing, like no work, because I had a job, but I got like let go from it, so I was kind of just like in between jobs, kind of like searching, like 22-year-old dude. I think I went to go see this movie on 420. I think when I saw it at the ArcLight in Hollywood, I went there on 420, and I remember going to the theater. I was kind of like in a bad mood because I was feeling like definitely like aimless and not knowing what I was doing with my life and shit. And then when I saw Under the Silverlake, like my whole mood changed, and I felt like much better after watching that movie.
And that was the sexual thing you're talking about?
Like I definitely really related to like the situation and the character, because living in like East LA, there's definitely a vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, like I saw Under the Silverlake at the ArcLight before it closed down, and when I
is that the Cinedome?
Cinerama Dome.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I saw it there, and I definitely really connected with it because I felt like I related to it a lot, and it felt good seeing someone on screen that was like doesn't have his like life together at all, like this like 30-year-old dude, like kind of like aimless, and he's trying to find some sort of purpose in his life, which he does, because Andrew Garfield plays this guy. We don't really know if he's an actor, what he does for work or whatever. He doesn't do anything for work. He kind of just like is, he's kind of like a drifter and shit. Mm-hmm. But he lives in this apartment in East LA. He's about to be evicted in 5 days. If he doesn't get his rent paid in 5 days, he's going to get evicted. During that period, though, he goes on this journey to uncover this sexual conspiracy with like this underground conspiracy and shit.
Well, there's like. What's like I think really cool about this film compared to It Follows, which is the only two movies I think he's done, is It Follows is just so contained, and it kind of like it just so like but it almost has like some plot holes where you're like, all right, whatever, but it just like is like so contained. And this film is like the opposite, where like it goes in every direction, all which ways, and all kind of leaves you unsatisfied with every kind of conspiracy theory, because they kind of like layer up, and there's like things going on shit, and it gets really complicated, and it is cool to just kind of like thematically do the opposite of It Follows, where you're just everywhere not satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like
cool David Robert Mitchell wrote and directed Under the Silverlake, and then his feature before that was the 2014 art house horror A24 picture It Follows, which I liked a lot.
Who did the music for the A24 picture It Follows?
Disasterpiece. Yeah, Disasterpiece did the score for this, which is a great score. I think I like the It Follows one more. It's a little bit more iconic. Yeah. I think I might like Under the Silverlake more as like a movie, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even though they're different, but there's definitely some horror aspects to this movie. Mm-hmm. For sure, some surrealistic qualities through the entire picture.
Well, it's like a new noir kind of.
Yeah, it's a neo-noir. It definitely has homages to like films like Sunset Boulevard and Mulholland Drive, and then like noir films like The Long Goodbye and like Big Sleep and shit like that. Like these investigative things that go down.
Yeah, like some conspiracy going on in LA. But the thing that really stood out to me that I really appreciated about this movie, as the movie's going on and he's uncovering this conspiracy, you start to kind of realize that he's uncovering this conspiracy that there's no conclusion to, right? Like, you kind of get his he achieves like finding out where the girl is that's missing.
Yeah, well, why don't we talk about like the plot though with the girl? Well, why don't we start from the beginning? Basically, we have this guy, Andrew Garfield, living in this apartment he's about to get evicted from, and he's a very kind of has like these voyeuristic qualities where he like looks at his neighbors and stuff, and he has like this hot cougar that lives across the way that's always like topless and shit, and he's like watching her with like binoculars, and then they have a pool in the courtyard of their apartment where he's like watching people, and there's this like really like striking blonde down there that's swimming in the pool with her dog, and then she like notices him because he gets a knock on the door and she sees that he's watching her, and then when he notices that they make eye contact, and he like kind of like ducks away and then goes into the apartment to answer the door, and then later on he's able to he meets the girl because her dog is waiting outside her door, and then he has like dog treats in his pocket, and he's able to like start talking to the girl, and they go inside and kind of hit it off and shit, and then the next day realizes that the girl disappeared and he's trying to find her, and that leads him down this rabbit hole, this whole investigation, which is the catalyst for the film. She's the MacGuffin that he's trying to find, and along the way he discovers his whole conspiracy of this sort of political, sexual, whatever, however you would describe it. And then you have this kind of the subplot of this dog killer going around Silver Lake like killing dogs and shit.
Online, there's this theory that he's the dog killer.
I can see that because he's got the treats and stuff.
He's got the treats, and then also throughout the movie you kind of see that he puts on this like nice guy persona with a lot of people, but then when there's some kids or something that's like weaker than him, like he's not afraid to like beat the shit out of people, you know? He kind of has like a little bit of a violent streak in him.
Because the motive for the dog killer was like he was an actor that like had contempt for dogs because they had like stardom or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly what pinpoint was, but I just felt like I think it was how much he like gets barked at by people or stuff. Like he just starts seeing people like a stretch, but I definitely think that could be a thing, and his being contempt with something, because I don't really remember the point I was trying to make, but like
no,
definitely.
I mean, there's a couple things, right? So when he first meets the girl, Riley Keough or something.
Yeah, Riley Keough, Elvis Presley's granddaughter,
Mm-hmm.
and her mom just passed away like a few months ago.
Yeah,
R.I.P.
But when he first meets her, he's like, "Oh, I love dogs. Yeah, my dog just died," and stuff like that. And then when he's talking to the other girl, the producer's daughter, when they're by the Silver Lake, he's like, "Yeah, I hate dogs," stuff like that. And he kind of changes his perspective on things throughout the movie, where he's like, "Oh yeah," he like follows the homeless king, and then he's like, "I hate homeless people." Like he's not really a consistent character throughout the picture, and I kind of really like that.
Yeah. That was actually really cool. I didn't think about that.
This movie definitely is from the perspective of a male. Like
Yeah,
straight.
definitely. And the filming is like from the perspective of a male.
Yeah,
the framing and stuff.
Yeah, definitely a straight white male living in a city, because we're seeing everything through his perspective, and like when he sees women, he like definitely like looks at them kind of in a definitely like sexually for sure. But if you are like a straight single white guy, you know, horny bastard, which he is, because this is definitely a horn dog movie. It's very sexual.
He's so sexual.
Like every girl he sees, he like looks at her ass, right? Which is kind of like, I mean, you can make the argument that that's kind of like a male, you know, objectifying women for the film, but also like if you are a dude, like, and you see a hot girl walking on the street, like, what do you do? Like, what do you look at? Like, for real, you know what I mean? Like, it's actually not far off from what is actually going on in a guy's head when you see a hot girl on the street, especially in Los Angeles, because there's a lot of them.
Mm-hmm. You know? There's a lot of beautiful women, and he is definitely, like, tempted by them throughout the movie. But also, he kind of puts himself in that situation to, like, try to get in their pants, you know? Like, every girl he meets, I never thought that he was, like, attracted to, like, the musicians and stuff. And then, like, you kind of see them when he's jerking off and stuff. He's, like, jerking off to pictures of them and stuff.
He's jerking off to pictures of the conspiracy.
Yeah, all the women that he sees throughout the movie, he's, like, jerking off to them.
Yeah,
it's, like, so weird.
Like, and how many women does he have sex with in this movie?
What?
How many women does he have sex with in the movie?
He has sex twice. He has sex at the beginning, and then he has sex at the very end.
With the cougar.
Yeah, it's like it's a bookend, right? But the whole
What about
movie,
the girl in the silver? Remember, he goes with the girl at the Silver Lake. The guy who's killed.
Yeah.
He goes with her to the Silver Lake, and they get naked and shit, and then they're gonna fuck, and then she's like, "Oh, someone's following me."
She's like, "Pretend we're fucking." He's like, "We're not."
Yeah, that was great.
But there's like a lot of like boobs and sex and stuff, and there's like really graphic like sex scene in the beginning with the exposition scene where he's like fucking that blonde bitch from Garfunkel and Oates.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they're like the angles they do, it's like very, very sexual. Like he's like fucking her doggy style, like from the angles from the front and shit. And like
yeah. No, it's like a horn dog movie for sure. But I think the thing I like too is like he has sex at the beginning, and then pretty much throughout the entire movie, he's just trying to have sex again.
Yeah, and it's hard not to pitch a tent during this picture sometimes.
For you, yeah.
Definitely also some reoccurring characters, like Topher Grace's character, who's just like this hipster dude living in Highland Park who has his own voyeuristic qualities. Yeah. And there's definitely a commentary on like actresses in LA because it gets kind of brought up a little bit. When they're filming they're filming with a drone.
That was so sad.
That was such a good scene.
Yeah, that was great. That was great.
But we're like witnessing this woman who's like super hot. She's like definitely a model, and then when she starts to like cry because she probably has some shit going down in her life. You know what I mean? Definitely like if you're like a model actor like in LA, like there's probably some weird shit going in.
It's just I like how it's two dudes just chilling and they're like, oh, look at this girl, she's gonna get naked, and then she just like starts undressing and like sobbing and like that. There's something about and just like the framing of it too. It's on like a computer screen and then it's zooming in on the computer screen. Like that was such a good scene. And it's just really like kind of a commentary on like male gaze and Hollywood, I guess.
Yeah, with the score, the disaster piece score that's playing too, it's like pretty good. Topher Grace's character, I guess, is just kind of like this guy who's like his friend who has some sort of perspective, I guess, because there's a part where Andrew Garfield's sitting with him in his backyard and he's telling him how he's asking him, oh, do you ever feel like you have a greater purpose or is you're supposed to be like doing something more, like you're destined to like do something great or whatever, and he tells him that's just narcissism 101. Everyone feels that way. Everyone feels like everyone in the world definitely feels that they have something greater to offer, but not everyone can do something great. It's only like a few amount of people who actually do it, but everyone has that inside them where they feel like they have to have some sort of purpose. And I think that Andrew Garfield's purpose is to uncover this conspiracy, because he feels definitely aimless city where everyone's trying to do something, but they never really do.
I like, there's a quote, I can't remember who says it, but something like, oh, life is like a carnival and we're all trying to throw rings at oversized bottles.
Oh, yeah. Who did say that?
In the movie?
Yeah, in the movie, yeah. And I like that because I feel like...
King say that?
Maybe it was the dude, the songwriter.
Oh, the songwriter scene was fucked up. That was so cool, but like, man... I was like trying to crank it up too. I was like, no, I think that scene is just because I mean it's very interesting to see about the coding and stuff. And ever since I've seen this movie, I've like tried to like look for little ways. But like, I mean, I have found a band that like is so bad, but they literally look like Jesus and the Vampire Brides or whatever. Like they literally are that tier and stuff. And I'm like, man, like I listen to it and sometimes I'm watching like the claps or whatever, and I'm like, what is going on here? Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to think about like how media can just be so like controlled. And, like, sure, there are hidden messages. Like, you can have, like, you got this new Harry Styles album, which is, like, whatever. Like, you can't, like, that has to be so produced, like, overly produced.
Yeah,
so
a million people, like, 100 writers.
But, like, but then you get, like, other stuff that, like, is just so genuine that, like, they couldn't stop it because it's, like, out there. And it's very interesting working with, like, the Smashing Pumpkins in that sense, because I do think that, like, Billy, like, from my experience with him, but I could be completely wrong, this is just from my perspective, is that he's just, like, so wild and just, like, if Hollywood could have stopped him, they would have. But he just wrote something that was so beautiful, and like so many people were like, "Fuck yeah!" Like this is it. That it just like there's something genuine there, maybe not coding. Because I feel like the Pumpkins are a weird band because on paper sometimes I just like don't think they should work, but like it does. But I also feel that way about like a band like the Talking Heads, where they just have like a song like "Where's My Beautiful Life," it's like Once in a Lifetime, and it's like they're just so dorky and they're so not cool that they are cool. So I do think like there are pockets of just like things that are just so genuine and they mean something to the heart that the world actually embraces, but like, well, 90% of mainstream, I'd say, but like is like overtly like composed and meant to tell a story, meant to like have a pattern that's for someone to pick up. But I do think there are genuine stuff out there as well. But
yeah,
doesn't mean some of the cool stuff. Like I mean, still like music, like mainstream stuff. Like even mainstream movies, you can really like.
Oh yeah, there's definitely coding in that. For sure. Yeah. I mean, there's probably coding in a lot of things. Even like Billy Corgan in the Smashing Pumpkins, it's definitely his unique voice, but he's also trying to put out his own message as well, like his own sort of coding, what he wants to say to the world.
Yeah.
And just for context, John works. We're talking about Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins, who John works for. That's
Yeah.
why. Yeah, there's definitely like things that get put into the movies that are unseen, or they're like subliminal or something, and it's up for like population to discover it, or just one person to unravel the whole thing.
The thing I really liked about this movie, though, that really stood out to me is he's trying to find meaning in a meaningless life.
Yeah.
So he's trying to search for meaning in LA, where just everyone has this narcissistic tendency to think that they have something special to offer. There is no greater meaning in the movie. Like, it's, if you read between the lines what all the characters say and stuff, why does the songwriter look so old and stuff? I think the director really puts in all these little hidden things, but they have no meaning behind them, just to try to make you search more for meaning in the movie.
But also more like realistic. Like, it just, because that's the thing, it's like unsatisfied, but there are so many like plot points I wish they would focus on more, like the owl woman. That was so cool, but she really kind of glides in and out there, and you really don't are so unsatisfied.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions that are asked and never answered, but also like the whole LA vibe of him going to all these weird different hipster parties and stuff, and all the set pieces are really dope, you know?
Yeah.
All the set pieces are great.
Yeah.
Like him going to these different parties, and then obviously he has like kind of a tripping scene, which is par for the course for a movie like this, and all the characters, and this is a really cool like original screenplay that they were able to produce, like A24, and it's all like very lush, very professional, really well shot, and Andrew Garfield is great in it and stuff.
Oh, he's so good, dude. This might be one of my favorite performances from him, because he's such like a douchebag, where he normally plays like a nice guy, you know.
Yeah, and I definitely relate to like, you know, when he gets like the calls from his mom and stuff, just like, oh, I'm sure you're super busy and and there's
I can't do anything.
Yeah, the whole Janet Gaynor thing, like there's all these like weird little connections that go on in the movie. It's kind of hard to go over all of it, but you know, when it was originally released, it really got a lot of mixed reviews from critics and stuff, and it definitely flopped financially. It cost like $8 million and they made like $2 million, but since then it actually has attracted a cult following, you know, and I'm definitely a part of that cult for sure, because I definitely support this film. There should be more like it, and I'm very much into that neo-noir type vibe, film noir in general, investigative stuff, where when they actually unravel the conspiracy, they realize it's too big for them to actually like solve the problems. When they actually realize that they're actually like, oh shit, like I found out what's going on, but there's actually nothing that I can do to help these people that are like the victims of this. It's all just bigger, you know, too big to fail, and I can't take it down because there's just too much backed behind it, too much influence, and even the victims of it are like okay with what's going on by the end of the film.
What I took away from it was not that like the success of unraveling it, but this message of just how unreliable of a narrator he is. You know what I mean? Like I really like that he's like he really thinks that it's so important and there's so much meaning, but like he only knew her for one day, and he feels like he's kind of owed time with her or something, and like just how you follow this character that's like really flawed, and he takes you through this story from his perspective, but then like there's so much message behind it. Like if like you're on theme with the film, that's like this guy is like could be the dog killer, this guy is like not a good guy and stuff, and he's trying to find meaning, but he's like really just kind of one step away from being homeless, like one step away from being those people that he hated.
Yeah, and it's almost like he's chasing something that he doesn't have. He does have this, like, I mean, it's just like his friend, the girl that he fucks, like his like fuck buddy. Like he has like this hot girl in his life, and obviously women are attracted to him throughout the movie. But there's this one girl that like evades his attention, and I kind of get that. Like sometimes you meet a girl that for some reason it's very like you become very enamored with or obsessed with, and like you don't have her, so you have to like chase that, even though it's pretty much going to be the same as any other person. But it's really about like people want what they can't have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like him obsessed with this like blonde girl, like almost like straight out of a movie, like Marilyn Monroe type, unattainable type shit.
Should we talk about the elites and their little sex?
Sure.
Service?
You want to talk about
the
it?
Spoilers?
Why don't you bring it up?
No, it's interesting how you're getting married under the cement at the end of the movie, and pretty much all the girls are somehow connected to like this like service where you can like pretty much it's like a call girl service, and you can call someone who's like moderately famous or just like a 15 minutes famous up. And then the thing that was like really, really alarming, then I'm like, whoa, this is fucked up. And there's this one girl in the thing, and they're like, what were you in? And she's like, oh, I was a child actor at the age of 6 months. People
and
it's
that's
fucked up.
so LA. Like they're like, oh yeah, I'm an actor, and then like, oh, what have you been in? Oh, I was in a movie when I was 5.
Yeah.
It's like, so does that really make you an actor? But there's kind of this posership going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like a lot of people like say that they're something when they're like maybe did it one time. You know, because we met actors who have been in like 2 short films.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been in LA for like a long time, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm an actor.
But I like the juxtaposition of like how the women view the world versus how he views the world. In the movie, the women are like, "Yeah," he's like, "Wow, you're really successful." She's like, "I wouldn't call it successful. I barely got paid. I was in one indie film, you know." And like they don't have any like grander illusions for themselves. They're just like going through the motions. Whereas he's like, no, I have to find meaning in like why I'm here, why I'm doing this. You know? And I think it's almost better to have that ignorance of not worrying about finding meaning for yourself and just like enjoying life. Like that's why when he's with the balloon girl in like the underground club, she's like, why, like we're only here for such a little bit. Let's just like enjoy life. And he can't do that, you know? And like, I don't know, there's something really cool about that commentary.
This film is definitely for me. Like I feel like it was like almost like made for like us, like living in East LA and shit, and walking the streets and that vibe. You get like sort of this surrealistic fantasy sort of vibe, this weird like world that you're in, where it's like LA is very like it's very glamorous and there's a lot of vanity and shit. And then there's also like this like sinister underbelly like going on. It's like from the outside you see LA and you just see like the 1% of like all the actors, like the Margot Robbies, all the successful people. And then when you move to LA, you kind of see like everyone else that's going on down there.